Well, gold's dramatic slump has some in the market questioning the safe haven mantra. For the mining sector, though, it's about getting the stuff out of the ground as fast as possible. After Newcrest, there's a battle for second place in Australia's listed gold stocks, but in terms of reserves, it's Resolute Mining, with 3 big projects on the go. In Africa, in Mali and Tanzania, and also at the Queensland Ravenswood operation. I spoke to Chief Executive Peter Sullivan in Perth. Peter Sullivan, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tikki.
You've just come back from the big global Denver Gold Forum. I think 90% of the world's gold production is represented there. I mean, this is very difficult for us to fathom what's going on with the gold price because we think of it as a haven at the moment. What were the folk at the forum telling you?
Oh, I think generally the sentiment at the Denver Gold Forum was that the world's global financial system is not stable by any stretch, and that the continuing uncertainty that we'll see, and it will take some time to work its way through, will continue to be good for gold. And, I think that's the broad sentiment that I picked up in my time there.
You're clearly still happy that you've moved to a 100% unhedged position with your gold.
Definitely. I mean, we chose to close out what the balance of the forwards that we had in place in October last year, and of course that's proved to be a pretty good decision at this point in time.
Now, your average cost of production at the moment is fairly high. In some places, I think it's over the $1,000 an ounce mark, but that, I gather, is on its way down.
Yes, this year we're forecasting our gold production price to be around about just a touch under $750 US for the year's production. So last year I think we're just a touch over 900, and a part of that is the growth that we're seeing in our production profile this year. We're forecasting that we could get over 400,000 ounces of production this year, which is it's a substantial gold producer in our own right here.
Indeed. Well, that will be a significant improvement on this year. I mean, you've had quite a tough year on the production side, particularly, I think, in Mali with your plant. I'm looking at sort of breakdowns and repairs and modifications. Is that just bad luck, or is that to do with on-site management, or what's it to do with?
Essentially, the issues that we've had ramping up the Syama operation have been mostly to do with legacy issues. We modified the plant there, and we did keep some of the key pieces of the plant, and we've seen as we've ramped up there, a lot of those key pieces have had failures that we otherwise might not have expected if it was new. So we are bearing the brunt of trying to save capital and keep equipment that was already installed in place.
You've got a whole lot of players now in West Africa, and all the majors, Vale, Chinalco, the Russian Severstal, ArcelorMittal, and we now see Rio Tinto, of course, putting in $2 billion, I think, by the end of the year in Guinea. Now, there's some pretty hairy stories coming out of West Africa. How do you make sure you get the right people on the ground there?
Well, the right people on the ground perhaps is one thing. I mean, it's being in countries where you do have a fairly stable political system. I think Mali, for example, we've seen a lot of stability there, and we don't have any problems attracting competent staff to go into Mali and live there. And, I'm not sure, we haven't operated in Côte d'Ivoire or Guinea as to how easy it is to attract staff to those areas. But I think the country is probably more important than the issue of whether you can or can't get staff there.
Is it true that sometimes in a democracy in Africa things are more risky because there's a tendency to change contracts on you?
Well, you've seen a little bit of that. I wouldn't say Africa is any more risky than any other country in the world. You can look around. Australia's just done it recently, or proposing to do it.
In terms of what, mining tax and that sort of thing?
Correct. Well, that's generally what changes when you talk about the rules changing. I mean, in Africa, it's the same. You see the fiscal terms change, or in other words, the taxes change.
You're also, of course, in Tanzania and in Ravenswood in Queensland. Do you see as a company, in terms of attracting investors, this spread of geographic risk is very important?
Well, I think the geographic spread, as well as the diversity of having 3 operations, I think they all go together. You're unlikely to strike a problem in all three countries, if you like. So the diversity does give you does give some value to investors in the company, in terms of making sure the risks are spread as far as they can be.
You also seem to have blue sky upside on both sides of the Indian Ocean. What are you most excited about?
Oh, there's a few things. I mean, I'm really excited about the province that we have in Mali. We haven't been able to invest in exploration to the level we would have liked over the last few years, and the work that we have done has turned up some really great results. The same in Australia and Queensland, and I think we're looking forward to some drilling that's actually started there in the last week on some of the areas we have in Queensland.
What about the sustainability side? I see in Mali, you say your monitoring of the surface water and groundwater quality continues to show that it's generally within acceptable values. Now, how does that standard compare, for instance, with your potential groundwater seepage around Ravenswood and the groundwater around the Burdekin? Is it a very different standard?
No, we run to the same standards wherever we operate, whether the country demands them or not. So, what we're seeing wherever we have our operations on all environmental measures, that we run to the world's best standards. We don't actually discriminate between countries.
Finally, Peter, the race for Africa, how do you see it? I mean, as one of the first players in West Africa, how do you see it panning out over the next 20 years? Is it going to be driven by the Chinese largely?
Oh, I think there's a scramble on for Africa from everywhere. The pioneers obviously are well placed to take advantage of it, but I think the competition's still pretty hot from the others as well.
Well, certainly is pioneering country. Peter Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Tiki.